Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is Biking Buddies, the motor vlog, as you guys are well aware, and we've got a rather special video for you today, something a little bit different. I'm going to give you a definitive guide as to how to start green laning, trail riding, off-roading on the larger ADV bike, as it were. So as always, grab yourself a brew, grab yourself a beer and come with me on this rather exciting Biking Buddies motor vlog. Let's roll VT.
Where do you go when you're young, when you're restless, when you're fun, cause you're desperate? Oh, here they come for a chance, for adventure. What's your poison, what's your pleasure?
Well, so that's the titles out the way and welcome to the channel. Let's dive right into this video and I'll tell you in a bit more detail what it's all about and what we're going to do. So I'm going to add a huge dollop of presumption here. I'm going to presume that, like me, you've got an adventure bike, an ADV bike, and quite possibly the reason that you've got that is that you've got a little bit of a sense of adventure. You like the idea of putting some kit on the back of the bike, and you like the idea of heading off into those wild places. Now, my story I'll cover as we go through this video, but as those of you that follow me on the YouTube channel, you will see that I've gone from full road bike, which was the Yamaha R1, a 4C8, beautiful machine. I swapped that out for a Triumph Tiger Explorer 1200 purely because I wanted to do more touring style riding. Tent on the back, disappear off, do the NC 500, etc. Have a check of those videos, guys. It was an absolutely epic trip. But like with so many of us, I did have that little bit of a calling to get myself off-road. Green laning, trail riding, call it what you will. So how do you do it? And how do you do it responsibly? And more importantly, how do you do it legally? And that's what we're going to cover in this video. So let's start with the bike itself. As I say, I went from the Super Road Rocket, which was the Yamaha R1, and I changed that out to a big, massive lump of a bike. So I exchanged the bike for a Triumph Tiger 1200. Huge thumpy engine with bags and bags of bottom end torque, exactly what you need on a big adventure bike, a big touring bike. And I primarily bought that bike, A, to do the NC 500. Those type of bikes are designed to just chew the miles away, wafting you along in endless comfort with heated seats to heated grips to cruise control to you name it, adaptive cruise control, etc. on the more modern bikes now. What I did find though is when I started to dip my toe into a little bit of the dirty stuff, the green lanes and the off-road riding, was the weight of the bike just far overtook anywhere near my skill or ability level. Coming in at around about a quarter of a ton, so 250, 255 kilos I think the bike was. The more modern versions I believe are slightly lighter now, but your average ADV bike, guys, let's face it, let's not beat about the bush, they were around about that 200 to 250 kilo mark. It was a big heavy bike, and the biggest thing I found that was holding me back was the ability to pick the bike up on my own. Higher speed stuff, relatively speaking, and we're talking anything above 10-15 miles an hour, was not really too much of an issue or a drama. However, the very slow speed maneuvers, the more technical stuff that you can find yourself having to deal with when you're trail riding, that then became an issue with the weight of the bike. Certainly for me, in more capable hands, I'm sure it wouldn't matter a difference, but certainly for me and my skill set, I needed something lighter. I was ready for a change. I'd had that bike for 3 years anyway, so enter the Yamaha Tenere 700, coming in at just over 200 kilos. Let's call it 200 for argument's sake. I believe it's 204 or 206 wet. So as a 200 kilo bike, this suits my skill set, my ability level, and also that ability to be able to pick the bike up on my own without needing assistance from any co-riders. Hence, I'm out on my own today and feeling quite comfortable about it. So the overarching element really with any type of off-road riding is you've got to ask yourself, what do you actually want out of your bike? There is a thought process that lightest is best, and if you're wanting to just do green laning and just do trail riding, then absolutely 100% it is. You would go for something like the Honda 250 or the KTM 250, 350, 450, something in that kind of region, something that weighs around about 100 to 150 kilos. However, that isn't the ADV sector market. And speaking of which, here's one coming down the track now. Couple of bikes. I'll get the gate. Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Right, yes, so where were we? Doncaster lads there, just got the gate from, had a quick chat as you've just seen. So yeah, the Yamaha Tenere. First and foremost, you've got to decide what kind of riding you want to do. For me, I still want to do a reasonable proportion of road riding, but I also want to do a reasonable amount of riding whereby I'm going to shoot myself over to the Yorkshire Dales, up into Northumberland for example, across to the Lake District, and I want to do it on the bike that I'm actually going to ride off-road. I don't want to be in the camp where I'm going to be a little bit of a trailer sailor, as it were, where I've got to put the bike in the back of a van or take it on a trailer. A lot of these smaller, lighter enduro bikes, they do tend to have limited on-road capability per se, typically a fuel tank range of anywhere from, well, let's be honest, from kind of 50 to 100 miles ish. Road riding, I'm looking at over 200 miles, 220 miles out of a 16-litre tank for the Tenere. On road, I'm looking closer to around about 150 to 180, most of it being second and third gear work. So that's why I ended up with what is classified as the ADV sector bike, the adventure bike, something bigger, something heavier. It's a bit of a compromise right across the whole field, that one size fits no one when it comes to bike riding, whether that's road riding, off-road riding, trail riding, etc. And the ADV sector is no different to that whatsoever. So this bike is a compromise. I can do long distance road miles, I can do off-road miles, and I can do a combination of the two. So that's why I ended up with an ADV bike, and that's what this video is going to be focused around. So that's enough waffling from me in this beautiful, stunning part of the North Yorkshire Moors National Park. I'm going to treat you today and I'm going to take you over to Rudland Rig, which is England's longest unbroken green road. It's a public byway, it's a byway open to all traffic, so any powered vehicle that's got the capability, obviously, can travel this road, so it's perfectly legal. And I will come on to the legality, the kit that you wear, and everything else that goes with trail riding as we go along and at various junctions along the way. So let's get on the bike and let's get on our merry way. Okay, so we're on our merry way now. We've got our bike, we've chosen the type of bike that suits our riding style, and we now need to start thinking about clothing is one thing, where we're going to ride, and more importantly and most fundamentally, the legal aspect of it. And that's what we'll cover now, is how do you know that where you're riding is legally permitted and you're not being a nuisance to the landowners. Because despite popular belief, when you look around us here, and we are purposely in the North Yorkshire Moors because there is some vast areas and expanses of open land, you may be fooled to think that you could pretty much just ride anywhere. Well, believe it or not, somebody actually owns this, all of this, in part or in full, depending where we are. And we've got to be incredibly respectful of that notion. There's land management goes on, there's the wildlife, the flora and fauna to be considered, and there's also other users of these shared spaces that we can see directly up ahead. Now, you will notice that I backed the pace right down. Good afternoon, folks. All right. Yeah, good, thank you. So back the pace right down good and early so that they know that I've seen them and I'm not going to go hooning past. And it's always nice, if you are stationary, having a bit of a brew or a rest, just to engage and have a little level of conversation with people. So back to the legality then. How do I know that this trail that I'm on is legally acceptable for me to ride a powered vehicle, typically a bike, a motorcycle, across? Well, a couple of things that you can do. You can do a bit of research through Facebook, which is an incredibly powerful tool. You can look for various off-roading groups. The majority of them do tend to be for four-wheel drives. Now, this is a boat, byway open to all traffic, so four-wheel drives are inclusive in that. But if you just stick to four-wheel drive routes, then you will be missing out a large proportion of legally open tracks and trails that are just specific for motorcycles. So quite often the landowners will quite rightly put a semi-restriction order on some of the legal access byways that only permit motorcycles on, because the physical impact in the environment is considerably less than four-wheel drive vehicles, for example. Not always, but in certain cases that can be the case. You can get yourself a set of OS maps, which is a fantastic tool. Have a look at the key and you're looking for boats there. All of the boats are shown, byways open to all traffic. but not all of the legal rights of access are shown. Now for me, being an avid motorcyclist, there was a no-brainer, which is the Trail Riders Fellowship. Now it does have a joining fee, and within that joining fee I believe it's just over £50 a year now, so circa £1 a week. You gain access to all manner of support mechanisms, networks, friendship networks, lead rides, group rides, a lot of advice, and so much more. Quite a bit of snow there in the pocket still. And one thing it also gives you access to, which is probably and primarily why a lot of people join the TRF, is access to what is classified as the Green Roadmap. Gives you access, it's an interactive map managed by a volunteer army right across the whole of England that update this map on a regular basis in conjunction with the access rights as dictated by the various governing bodies, the county councils, the landowners, etc. And believe it or not, access rights do change fairly frequently and fairly regularly, partly because of erosion and environmental control, but also to do with the actual use of the land. Where I am, for example, here in the North Yorkshire Moors National Park, one of the large income streaks from the land is the famous shoot. Now, to put that into context, the landowners can charge, on average for the North Yorkshire Moors, around £1,200 per gun, so per person, per day, and they would be bringing parties up of around 12 to 15 persons on a daily basis. So clearly there's a lot of revenue at stake, and they would alter the access across certain trails to permit the shoot to not endanger any persons, vehicles or otherwise that might be frequenting that area. So it's a very invaluable tool in terms of having a look at where you can go and where you can't go. Just because you went there last week doesn't mean that you can go there this week. Now, I'm a member of my local TRF group, and they are an incredibly proactive group. They do monthly socials across the 2 national parks that we kind of sandwich and border within the area that I'm in, within North Yorkshire. So one month we would be across here in the North Yorkshire Moors, and the alternate month we might be over in the Yorkshire Dales. Now, when I sit down for lunch, I'll tell you a little bit of a story about my first encounter with a monthly social, what I thought about it and how it actually went. I didn't film that ride, incidentally. I was way too nervous, but I did film the second one. But the group rides then, you don't really know anybody. Once you join the TRF, you gain access to your local group's Facebook page. And within that Facebook page, that's where all of the posts and the activity goes. So the group rides are posted up as you'd expect, and you would generally register your intent to attend, and generally you're just on the lookout for, or you would post yourself what kind of ride that you're looking for. Now initially, as a brand new rider to off-road and green laning, trail riding, I would be posting that yes, I'm available to join that ride, but I would be looking for an ADV friendly ride, but also something that's levied towards beginners. And when I sit down for lunch, as I say, I'll tell you that story. It's a very interesting and entertaining one. Also, it isn't just catering for beginners. Obviously, there are lifelong members of the TRF. There are some people that have got skill sets akin to Paul Tarras, etc., Billy Bolt, and they would also post rides that are levied according to those skill groups as well. So it isn't really something that you would join and then readily grow out of, because there's always going to be something for somebody. There is also an etiquette to observe when you're out green laning as well. Keep your speed down to something respectable. Doesn't mean that you don't get the opportunity to hoon and lift a wheel every now and again off these jumps and bumps, but you have got to be incredibly respectful of the environment that you're in. Other users of these beautiful shared spaces that we're in, be that mountain bikers, equestrians, etc. And there is generally, as you'd expect with any countryside activity, there is a little bit of a code of conduct that just acknowledges other road users and your conduct and how you should behave around them. And I'm very, very much of that stable and of that ilk, that I would always compromise my ride or my activity very momentarily as I pass by another user of these shared spaces. And really, that's where you should be. And look around us, how could you not enjoy this? Now we're just off the bike, as you can well see, and we are at a very infamous spot which is called Bloworth Crossing. And the reason I've stopped here is just to talk a little bit more, to close the section out on legality. You might be up here in this absolutely barren, forsaken area of moorland thinking, this is amazing, I could go anywhere I want, I've got a track running on that way, I can see a track over there, I can see tracks over there, a track ahead of me, a track over here, there's lots of ground here that I could practice my skills on. And if you did that, you'll be breaching so many access rights that it would be unreal, and that really does damage to not only the environment but also the ability for myself and other users that want to use these trails legally. So let's have a look in a bit more detail at this boat, this byway open to all traffic. This is Rudland Rig, as we well know. I've come off the tops from here, I'm travelling in this direction, travelling south over Bloworth Crossing, and my legal trail takes me all the way as far as the eye can see, following the track till I get onto the south side of the national park. Sorry about that, battery change. So I've got here in main intersection, and this is telling me a little bit about where I can and can't go. Public bridleway that tells me here that cycles, horses and pedestrians are more than legally entitled to ride, as we're looking here east to west, but north to south I can't do that. Now there isn't anything that's telling me that this is a legal byway, however when we check things like the Green Road map and the OS maps, then yes, we can certainly see. So anywhere in essence that's a public bridleway, you can't legally ride your bike on. Okay then folks, so here we are, it's lunchtime. I've set the tarp up, partly just because we've got a little bit of forecast rain coming our way. We haven't got that as yet, but mainly because it gets me out of the wind. It's very light, it's very fast to set up, and arguably it's just as fast to put it down as it is to take it up. So here I am, enjoying a nice spot of lunch in the wilds. Now, I did promise you that at lunchtime I would tell you the inaugural story of the TRF, on my first interaction with the TRF. So wind yourself back to 2022, November of 2022, a very cold November morning. There was a monthly social ride posted on the Facebook group, and I'd only been a member of the TRF for a month at this point, and I decided that I would go along. The bike of choice was the only one I had, which was the Triumph Tiger 1200, big old heavy lump. I saw the post there as a monthly social and thought, yep, I'll have a crack at that. A little bit of expanding my trail knowledge, as it were, up in the beautiful Yorkshire Dales. So off I went super early on a Sunday morning. So I rock up at the meeting point, and lo and behold, as you would well expect, this type of thing, which is maybe where the stigma comes from to a certain degree, I pulled up into the car parking area, the meeting point area, and every other bike that I could see was a 250, a 350. I think the biggest bike there was a 450, and you know you have that sinking feeling when I just looked around and I couldn't see any other big bikes, any other adventure spec bikes. They were all enduro style bikes and lighter, and I had that sinking feeling to myself, oh man alive, I am so in the wrong place here. But no matter, put a brave face on. I thought, let's go in, get a cup of tea, sit outside, and yes, somebody's bound to speak to me because nobody will recognise me and nobody will recognise the bike. And to cut a long story short, I sat there for best part of half of a cup of tea thinking, man alive, I am in the wrong place here. And then a few people started speaking to me. That broke the ice, and then the ride leader, as it was, which is where I met Leo, he stepped up and he said, oh, you must be Paul, you've posted on the Facebook group, you're looking for a beginner's ride, an adventure friendly ride. And I really wasn't feeling the love at that point, not from Leo, just from the whole situation, a cold claggy morning, and I'm thinking, man alive, in the wrong place. So I did say to Leo, I'll give it a shot, I'll do the first trail or two and then let you know how I get on. There was another chap there as well, incidentally. He rocked up on a 1200 GS, so I was no longer the only big bike. There was two of us, that was Dragos. So the group comprised of Leo as the ride leader, there was Dragos and myself, BMW 1200, Save Tiger 1200, and within the group was a lady called Rachel, and the tail end Charlie for that day was a gentleman called Peter on a little CT 125. So off we went. I was full of trepidation with this big hefty lump of a bike, completely feeling like a fish out of water. But all credit to Leo, Rachel and Peter. They put my mind at ease. They didn't take me on any trails that were too challenging for the bike type or the ability level that I had. And as the morning progressed through noon and into the afternoon, your confidence starts to build, and Leo could make a very fair assessment on where my abilities were, and obviously Dragos as well, who was a far superior rider to myself, and off we went over the Yorkshire Dales. Did I find the ride challenging? In places, yes, I most certainly did. Did I find it enjoyable? Absolutely, 100% yes, I did. So my advice to you would be, if you are of an ADV type rider and you're wanting to get into green laning, you're looking at the Trail Riders Fellowship, the TRF, and you're thinking, man, that's not for me. Everything that I've seen across the website, etc., is all about enduro style bikes. Don't worry, get yourself there. Put a posting on the Facebook group of your group of chosen location, and let them know what bike that you ride, what type of ride that you're looking for, and whether you're a novice, intermediate or expert. But it is fundamental that you let people know what kind of bike it is that you're riding. So, very interesting story, very encouraging story, I'm sure you're thinking, but what is the purpose of it? Well, first and foremost, there is a very large section of ADV riders out there. However, I feel that the majority of larger bike riders, larger ADV riders, are maybe a little bit scared, a little bit apprehensive from going along to a TRF meet or even joining the TRF. And what I found over the first months of my joining the Trail Riders Fellowship was I rode with Leo very, very regular, and again, very well pitched ride. My confidence levels and my trail knowledge started to increase to the point that I now regularly lead the ADV section, and it's so popular that we have to actually cap the numbers. If I post a ride across the TRF forum, you can bet your bottom dollar to a barn dance we'll be in excess of 10 riders plus, and I have to cap those numbers just to keep it realistic and responsible for when we're out in the countryside. So if you are one of those individuals that's perhaps a little bit intimidated by the sheer volume of enduro bikes, fear not. I am living testament that there are a lot of us out there, a lot of ADV riders, particularly myself included here, that have got very limited skill sets, but by accessing those green roads, those legal byways, by joining the TRF, by getting out with a group, with that support, that if you do get stuck or you do drop your bike, it's no big deal. There are plenty of people around to help you. Then your confidence builds, and with confidence your skill sets increase, and with your skill sets increasing then your confidence builds as well. And it is a very positive but a vicious circle as it goes on, and by no means would I ever consider riding on my own over the terrain that I presently do. I would never have dreamed of doing that 12 plus months ago, but I'm certainly very comfortable doing that now. So get yourself joined, guys. Have a look at the Trail Riders Fellowship, have a look on Google. I'll put all of the links in the description. Once you've joined the Trail Riders Fellowship, you then have a look on Facebook. Pick the group that's geographically centred to yourself. You can join a couple of other groups as well, I believe. So I'm in the North Yorkshire TRF, the Tees Valley TRF, and Northumberland as well, which kind of takes in every national park, probably within about a 50-60 mile radius of me, so I can pick and choose what I want to do. Okay then folks, so we've pretty much covered all of the basics now. We've covered the bike, the style of riding that you want to do, how you get the prior knowledge to gain in legal access, and also wonderful groups such as the Trail Riders Fellowship, which I personally wholeheartedly recommend that you join. The one thing that we haven't covered yet is the kit that we're wearing. So let's get pulled up here. Unsuitable for motor vehicles. This is the south end of Rudland Rig, for those of you that are familiar with the area, and we'll talk you through a little bit of the kit in terms of what I'm actually wearing. So let's get you tilted down so we can see a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to keep my helmet on just for the purposes so you can see what's going on. Now, kit is the same for road riding as it is for off-road riding, in the same context that the kit can be as cost effective as you want it to be, but it can also be as expensive as you want it to be. One thing that I would recommend you never do is never compromise on safety. So whilst it looks like I'm wearing just normal camo type waterproofs, I have got full body armour on my upper torso, I've got full knee protection, and I'm wearing some pretty damn sturdy off-road boots, as well as the obligatory gloves just in case the bike goes down. Now, there are two things that are incidentally very, very different from road riding in terms of the kit that you purchase against trail riding. First and foremost is you will get hot, very hot indeed. You'll see from a couple of these clips that I put on, you don't want to be wearing textiles. Most people come from the ADV sector wearing textiles. I certainly did that, and a couple of things happen to your textiles. They do get trashed and ruined with all of the sand and the muck and the debris and everything that gets into them does clog them up. You find you're washing them and reproofing them very, very regularly, and you get bakingly hot even with all the vents open, all of the liners stripped out. And you'll certainly see there from Pete Hippodrones, he really suffered on this day. Particularly challenging trails, yes, but certainly did suffer wearing textiles. So get yourself some decent body armor. Again, you don't need to spend a fortune. The TRF, they sell gear moving it around from person to person as well, so another good resource centre to look at. The levels of protection are entirely up to you. But one thing that I will say is the second difference, generally speaking, is when you're road riding, very rarely do you ever see a bike go down, a bike fall over, a rider come off. Now, if that does happen, again, I'm generalising now, it would be quite a serious situation. However, when you're trail riding, it's a regular occurrence. You will drop your bike and you will see others drop their bike. However, the speeds are way slower, so the level of protection that you've got also generally speaking reflects directly the speeds that you're doing. Now, there's nothing to stop you on a trail like this. Obviously, hooning off at 60 miles an hour, it is a legal byway for all intents and purposes, so national speed limit would apply on this road. However, common sense would prevail that given the loose nature, the puddles, the ruts, the mud, etc., that you wouldn't do that anyway, A, because of your own personal safety and that of others that may be using this trail as well, and the livestock that's around. But also, if you revert back to the early part of the video, that country code, green lane code etiquette that I was talking about, you should really restrict your speed to something a little bit more pedestrian than that, something that gives you ample time to see other people, other users of that green space, and react accordingly without putting the fear of bejesus into them, thinking that they're going to get mown down by some lunatic hooning along on a bike. So how do I keep warm in winter is the loud cry. Well, layers. I have made reference in previous videos of Onion Boy. I have an outer layer, I have an inner layer, I've got my body protection, and then I've got thermal base layer underneath that as well. I can chop and change as the ride develops, so if I wanted to at the moment, it is hovering around about that 6 degrees, so I'm actually perfectly warm as we speak. But if I wanted to, I could lose the windproof, waterproof outer layer, and then I've got the mid layer, which is a breathable military spec but a buffalo style windproof underneath, thermally lined. I can take that one out, which brings me back to the bike. Incidentally, it's always worth having some form of dry bag, dry pack, some ability to carry something on the bike, even if, as is the case of the tarp today, as you can see, we've just got the ability to strap something onto the bike. I could tuck a jacket under there if I so wanted to. So please don't compromise on your gear. Buy reasonably priced kit, whatever's within your budget. If you want high-end market stuff, by all means go fill your boots. Personally, I like the military spec stuff. It blends in quite well. It's not loud, it's not leery, but also it's cost effective as well, because going back to that original point of all of the sand and the dirt and the dust in the summer, the water, etc., all of that dirt gets ground into particularly your lower part of your legs, and in essence, if you buy this military spec kit, both the bottoms and the top are breathable, a Gore-Tex type material. The bottoms, to put it in context, were £20 and the top was around about £35-40 I think it was, so arguably both almost a disposable item. If I replace these once a year, it's no real deal breaker, it's not going to break the bank. However, if I was wearing as I used to with my RST Pro adventure gear, well, that was north of 650 quid for the set, and again, if that only lasted a season, well, I'm going to be pretty upset at that. So I've now found myself right on the very plumb south side of the national park. I've got the entirety of Roadland Rig to enjoy on the way back home, which I dutifully will, and that brings me to close the video down. The last thing that you should really do, if this video or all of the others, many others that are out there, has convinced you as an ADV rider to get off-road, join the TRF, the Trail Riders Fellowship, get yourself part of a group, stick your neck on the block, get out, get into these beautiful, stunning areas, but above all, folks, don't forget the most crucial thing that sits right on top of the tree of all of everything that we've spoken about today, and that is to enjoy yourself. There's little point in doing any of this if you're not enjoying it. Try to relax. Get those confidence levels up, get used to handling the bike, get used to picking the bike up, get used to the fact that the bike's going to go down. You're trail riding now, and that's all part and parcel of the bigger picture. The bike's at the end of the day, and you can look at this T7, it's been on its side more times than I care to remember, on film and off, but they are well protected. They've got all of the scaffolding around the delicate parts. I've put adventure spec luggage racks and carriers on the back. That protects all of the back end. Seriously good bash plate. That's what you need, and some decent off-road tyres. Don't go all out on off-road tyres because that'll compromise your road riding too much. Do something akin to what I've done. A 50-50 tyre is more than ample. You're not going to be mud plugging, you're not going to be rock crawling. Leave that to the enduro boys, or go buy an enduro bike and do that. If you're on an ATV bike, at the end of the day, guys, it's a 50-50 bike. That's what it's designed to do, and that's where you'll find the most enjoyment. And speaking of enjoyment, I'm going to jump on the bike and pootle across Rudland Rig, the longest unbroken legal green lane in England. It's all about the fun, guys. It's all about getting out there, and it's just all about exploring yourself. These fabulous areas that we've got. Every area in the UK and Wales has got them. There's only Scotland with its access rights, believe it or not, that don't have them. Practice your little bit of lofting with that front wheel. It is good fun. And if you find you want a little bit more, then why not do as I've done and get yourself booked on an adventure training course. Triumph do them, KTM do them, BMW do them. And I found that certainly doing one a year is enough, that you've then got that year to follow to then put everything in practice that they've taught you on that course. And it pays dividends, even if it's just for the outright confidence levels. 2, 1. Okay, new camera mounts. Let's see how we get on there. Now we've got the panniers off. Be interesting to see how we go with that on the back of the bike, and it'll also be interesting to see if it gets really dirty really quickly or not. Who knows? So yes, I hope you enjoyed that little bit of footage there, and I also hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. There certainly is a lot to think about if you're wanting to venture onto the dirty stuff and get yourself off-road. Personally, I would highly recommend it. It is by far the best thing that I've done. The things that we like about motorcycling, the open road, the freedom, that sense of freedom, increasingly so I think you find, or certainly I found, that the road networks are just too choked up now, they're just too busy. But here out on the trails, I'm having an absolutely fantastic time. I'm flying solo. I've got a nice steady space to the ride, and look at this for a view. You just don't get this type of thing when you are road riding. So yes, I would actively encourage anybody thinking about doing a little bit of trail riding to get yourself joined with the Trail Riders Fellowship. There's a lot worse things that you can do with 50 quid. So, as I enjoy this incredible tumble off the top of Rudland Rig down to the farmstead at the bottom, Bankfoot Farm, I'm going to thank you very much for your company. As always, guys, if you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button. It does do wonders for the YouTube channel. Those algorithms, wow, look at that view. Never ever get tired of that one. Yes, it does wonders for the channel. And obviously leave a comment as well. I will put all of the links and descriptions, etc. in the description below this video. I know not a lot of people look at those, but if you are contemplating a life with the TRF, then that is something that you may well be interested in. So the web links, etc., they will all be in there. So guys, as I tumble off the top then, Ride safe, folks, wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing. Enjoy your ride, keep it safe, and we will see you for the next one. I am very sure indeed. Thank you, folks. Bye now, bye.